Day 7. It's early in the morning. It's actually before work, and I just had some doubts about what I did as far as alignment before. So I went back and I rechecked everything. Got a lot more clamps on it now, but if I put my machine square on here, this thing's supposed to be exact. You can tell the ball screw's not quite straight with the shell plate. That'd be an issue running the press, because it'd run all your brass in crooked. We don't want that. So I'm going to raise the end of the ball screw up, and then I'm going to re-level this rail just to make myself happy. Okay, I'm pretty happy with the level. Just got a couple of these tacked down here. I put my micro gauge on here, and I got it set at 0. I'm going to run the ball screw all the way up to this end, slide this carriage all the way up to the end of this rail, and move it until that gauge reads 0 again, and then I should have them perfectly parallel. Ball screw's all the way up now. I've slid it over till it just reads 0. It's really close. Just tap it with my finger here. Trying to get it right on 0, but I may not make it. Ah, there we go. Okay, so that's perfectly straight from end to end now. So I've located where this goes. I can clamp it. I would tack it, but I'm just going to clamp it right now because I hate cutting tacks loose. But I'm going to clamp it and carry on with setting that rail, and then adjust the ball screw level. All right, I've checked and rechecked and rechecked and rechecked, and I think it's done. I mean, obviously a lot of clamps everywhere, but I got the square set up here, and I've got it on these 2 big parallel bars, and it's sitting right on top of the ball screw. I'm measuring 0 at the top of the ball screw on both ends, so I really don't think I can get it any better than that. I mean, it's about as perfect as I can do with the equipment I have, and I think it's more than adequate for what I'm going to do with it. So I'm going to go ahead and start tacking things down, put the motor on it, and have some fun. Under here you can see the plastic washers I printed. I printed those on purpose because they'll smash, so I can lower this part down by torquing the bolts and get it exactly where it belongs, like right there. So I think I'm ready. Well, I got all the foil off. I tacked everything up, got all the foil off that was protecting all the metal parts, and man, it's turned out great. I did get this tacked in, but only here and here. I did have to put a spacer in here because the gap is a little big, but the ball screw end stayed centered with the jig like it's supposed to. The plastic tray held everything in place like it was supposed to. It's actually really stiff. I think just printing a plastic tray and doing the epoxy casting will work great there. Plastic washers down here crushed just like you're supposed to. Everything is turning out great. This ball screw turns super easy, and we'll move this up and down no problem. I just can't move it very fast, so it's not very cool looking when I turn it by hand, but it is moving. You can tell. Anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and go get the motor, the servo, and attach it down here, and it's going to look pretty ugly. I'm just going to tack together the mount. I decided not to do the block, the mold block, because that's just really difficult. And to be honest, I'm getting kind of antsy because this thing's just turning out so nice. But I'm going to tack together a frame using these long square head bolts. Just going to tack them up here and then put nuts on the end to hold the motor mount. All this is going to get epoxy casted, so you're not going to see any of that. It's going to make the motor mount stiff so it can't torque and twist and things. But anyways, so I'm going to go grab the servo and attach that, and then probably going to take this whole thing into my my office and start writing some code to do some do some movements. I came up with a new bearing plan. I'm still going to work out a few details. I'll go over that in a little bit, but I'm going to put this motor in, and man, I'm ready to do some programming. All right, I know this looks a little funny, but there's a motor under here, servo. Got the dial indicator up here just to make sure that the coupler is straight. The motor's not crooked. It's all in line. Needle's moving just a little bit, but it actually looks pretty good. So I'm going to start welding. Give you an idea. I mean, this is just regular Reynolds wrap foil, but I wrapped it with 3 layers, and it made it through the first layer pretty easy. It didn't get through the second layer, but just so you know. Also, when you weld around something that's magnetic, and this thing's got some pretty awesome magnets in it, it tends to suck all the sparks kind of towards it if there's any ferrous metal in it at all. So if you're welding around a motor, make sure you protect it good. There's the motor mount and the coupler. Motor still looks good. Looks brand new, which is good because it is brand new. I'd be very heartbroken if it looked like crap now. Anyway, that's I think that's it. Yeah, I'm gonna take it into the laboratory and do some programming. This is gonna be fun. Okay, we made it to the lab. That thing's heavy, a lot heavier than I thought it would be, but got it in here. It's about 300 feet from the house to the shop, and I'm a little wore out. Anyway, so I'm gonna get this set up on the bench over here, get one of my big stepper or servo drivers down, get this wired up, and do a little motion. It's gonna be pretty awesome. I'm so super excited. All right, it's too tall to fit underneath the shelf on top of the bench, so it's laying on its side. But keep in mind, it's supposed to actually operate like this, standing up, not laying down. Anyway, so I got the big servo hooked up. We got a high voltage power supply. That's only a 48 volt supply. That particular power supply rectifies AC 120 volts or 110 down to 48 volts DC. Feeds into the driver over here. I know it's labeled AC1 and AC2, but this is an AC or DC driver. I got the encoder cable, which runs over here. This is the encoder on the back of it, so if you move the servo, it'll go back to where it was. Probably you guys don't really care much about that sort of thing, but that's basically how the system works. Now, it's powered on now, so there is no way to turn this ball screw. It's just not going to happen. Give up. Don't even try, because the motor's locked. If I power it off, as soon as the power drops off the driver, I can turn it pretty easily by hand. But when it's on, it locks, and it ain't moving, no matter how hard you try. So, I've got my software opened up over here. Let's do some motion. Okay, here we go with the first motion test. See if we crash it. Didn't crash. Let's see if it'll go faster. Alright, I doubled the speed. Let's see what happens. Well, it went twice as fast. That's probably good. Alright, well, I'm going to call it a night, guys. Got a lot of little code tweaks I need to do to make this, really usable and make it easy to configure. But now I've got so many options as far as if I'm going to just load one caliber at a time, or process one caliber in the first 4 stations, another caliber in the next 4. Man, just a lot of things I can do with it now. So I got this far. One other thing I did want to go over, you guys probably recall in I think day 3 maybe, or day 2, when I was reviewing the CAD drawing, I was talking about thrust washers and needle bearings attaching to this. I've actually found a better solution. It's called a slewing ring. It's a captive ring with ball bearings in it. It's basically like a ball bearing, but it's only about a ½ inch thick, and it's 200 millimeters, so it'll come all the way out to the edge of this plate. That'll allow me to push up and pull down on it without binding it, and I'll be able to rotate it around. So it'll simplify things a lot as far as the construction. It's going to sit on top of this. I've ordered it, so really the build stuff is done for now because I've got to wait on some parts. But I'm going to keep playing with the software and get that part trying, you know, a little closer. But the build components and things on top of this shell plate are going to have to stop till I think it's next Tuesday is when the parts show up. So until then, enjoy, and I'll see you guys later.